I always prefer to believe the best of everybody, it saves so much trouble. We have 40 million reasons for failure, but not a single excuse. God could not be everywhere, and therefore He made mothers. Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind. Never look backwards or you'll fall down the stairs. Asia is not going to be civilized after the methods of the West. There is too much Asia and she is too old. I have struck a city, a real city, and they call it Chicago. I urgently desire never to see it again. It is inhabited by savages. For the female of the species is more deadly than the male. A man's mind is wont to tell him more than 7 watchmen sitting in a tower. Borrow trouble for yourself, if that's your nature, but don't lend it to your neighbors. Heaven grant us patience with a man in love. Small miseries, like small debts, hit us in so many places, and meet us at so many turns and corners, that what they want in weight, they make up in number, and render it less hazardous to stand the fire of one cannon ball, than a volley composed of such a shower of bullets. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. The silliest woman can manage a clever man, but it needs a very clever woman to manage a fool. When you're wounded and left on Afghanistan's plains, and the women come out to cut up what remains, just roll to your rifle and blow out your brains and go to your God like a soldier. And the first rude sketch that the world had seen was joy to his mighty heart, till the devil whispered behind the leaves, it's pretty, but is it art? An ounce of mother is worth a pound of clergy. All the people like us are we, and everyone else is they. A woman's guess is much more accurate than a man's certainty. Gardens are not made by singing, "Oh, how beautiful," and sitting in the shade. A woman is only a woman, but a good cigar is a smoke. If you can keep your wits about you while all others are losing theirs, and blaming you, the world will be yours and everything in it. What's more, you'll be a man, my son. For the sin they do by 2 and 2 they must pay for 1 by 1. He wrapped himself in quotations, as a beggar would enfold himself in the purple of emperors. San Francisco is a mad city, inhabited for the most part by perfectly insane people whose women are of a remarkable beauty. Down to Gehenna, or up to the throne, he travels the fastest who travels alone. A people always ends by resembling its shadow. Often and often afterwards, the beloved aunt would ask me why I had never told anyone how I was being treated. Children tell little more than animals, for what comes to them they accept as eternally established. If history were taught in the form of stories, it would never be forgotten. Fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. The first condition of understanding a foreign country is to smell it. Everyone is more or less mad on one point. If I were hanged on the highest hill, mother oh mine, I know whose love would follow me still, mother oh mine, mine. If I were damned of body and soul, I know whose prayers would make me whole, mother oh mine, mother oh mine. And that is called paying the Danegeld, but we've proved it again and again, that if once you have paid him the Danegeld you never get rid of the Dane. There are 69 ways of constructing tribal lays, and every single one of them is right. The place was packed as full of smells as a bale is of cotton. She was as immutable as the hills, but not quite so green. Oh, where are you going to, all you big steamers, with England's own coal, up and down the salt seas? No doubt, but ye are the people, your throne is above the king's. Whoso speaks in your presence must say acceptable things. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are your own fears. Of all the trees that grow so fair, old England to adorn, greater are none beneath the sun, than oak and ash and thorn. Now this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky. Politics are not my concern. They impressed me as a dog's life without a dog's decencies. On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder outer China, crossed the bay. But a fool must follow his natural bent, even as you and I. If blood be the price of admiralty, Lord God, we ha paid in full. He who rebukes the world is rebuked by the world. Have it just as you've a mind to, but I've proved it time on time, if you want to change her nature you have got to give her lime. He is the cat that walks by himself, and all places are alike to him. King Solomon drew merchantmen, because of his desire for peacocks, apes and ivory, from Tarshish unto Tyre. Keep ye the law, be swift in all obedience, clear the land of evil, drive the road and bridge the ford. It is at Bombay that the smell of all Asia boards the ship miles offshore, and holds the passenger's nose till he is clear of Asia again. Pleasant the snaffle of courtship, improving the manners and carriage, but the colt who is wise will abstain from the terrible thorn-bit of marriage. Pass the hat for your credit's sake, and pay, pay, pay. Such boastings as the Gentiles use, or lesser breeds without the law. Like many other unfortunate young people, Harvey had never in all his life received a direct order, never, at least, without long, and sometimes tearful, explanations of the advantages of obedience and the reasons for the request. Who knows the heart of the Christian? How does he reason? What are his measures and balances? Which is his season for laughter, forbearance, or bloodshed, and what devils move him when he arises to smite us? I do not love him. You'll never plumb the Oriental mind, and if you did, it isn't worth the toil. You just don't know how to use the English language. Who are neither children nor gods, but men in a world of men. When you're left wounded on Afghanistan's plains and the women come out to cut up what remains, just roll to your rifle and blow out your brains, and go to your God like a soldier. We have had an imperial lesson. It may make us an empire yet. We get the hump, Camellias hump, the hump that is black and blue. We ain't no thin red arrows, nor we aren't no blackguards too, but single men in barracks, most remarkable like you, and, if sometimes our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, why single men in barracks don't grow into plaster saints. 'Tis beauty, so to speak, nor good talk necessarily. It's just it. Some women will stay in a man's memory if they once walked down a street. The deaths ye died I have watched beside, and the lives ye led were mine. Believe the best of everybody. When pack meets with pack in the jungle, and neither will go from the trail, lie down till the leaders have spoken, it may be fair words shall prevail. When Omer smote his bloomin' lyre, he'd heard men sing by land and sea, and what he thought he might require, he went and took, the same as me. There be triple ways to take, of the eagle or the snake, or the way of a man with a maid. You have heard the beat of the offshore wind, and the thresh of the deep-sea rain, you have heard the song, how long? How long? Pull out on the trail again. Though I walks with 50 housemaids outer Chelsea to the Strand, and they talks a lot o' lovin', but what do they understand? To the legion of the lost ones, to the cohort of the damned. Ye thought. Ye are not paid to think. When the earth's last picture is painted and the tubes are twisted and dried. Through the jungle very softly flits a shadow and a sigh, he is fear, O little hunter, he is fear. You have too much ego in your cosmos. What stands if freedom fall? Who dies if England live? East is east, and west is west, and never the twain shall meet. Every one wanted to say so much that no one said anything in particular. And ye take mine honor from me if ye take away the sea. And, for all is dirty-eyed, he was white, clear white inside when he went to tend the wounded under fire. And your rooms at college was beastly, more like a whore's than a man's. Duke's son, cook's son, son of 100 kings, 50,000 horse and foot going to Table Bay. Ease all ot sand and ginger when alive, and ease generally shamin when ease dead. The toad beneath the harrow knows exactly where each tooth point goes. The butterfly upon the road preaches contentment to that toad. Is it true, what you told me just now, that you never done a hand's turn o' work in all your born life? Must feel kinder awful, don't it? I've taken my fun where I found it and now I must pay for my fun. The sins ye do by two and two, ye must pay for, one by one. The silliest woman can manage a clever man, but it needs a clever woman to manage a fool. I've a head like a concertina, I've a tongue like a button stick, I've a mouth like an old potato, and I'm more than a little sick. But I've had my fun, oh, the corporal's guard, I've made the cinders fly, and I'm here in the clink for a thundering dream. I've a head like a concertina, I've a tongue like a button stick, I've a mouth like an old potato, and I'm more than a little sick. Pull out on the long trail, the trail that is always new. Prize, oh, haul! Shouted Dan, but the shout ended in a shrill, double shriek of horror, for out of the sea came the body of the dead Frenchman buried 2 days before. The hook had caught him under the right armpit, and he swayed, erect and horrible, head and shoulders above water. Our England is a garden, and such gardens are not made by singing, oh how beautiful, and sitting in the shade, while better men than we go out and start their working lives at grubbing weeds from gravel paths with broken dinner knives. Something lost behind the ranges. Lost and waiting for you. Go. Ave you heard, oh, the widow at Windsor with a hairy gold crown on her VAD. Back to the army again, Sergeant, back to the army again, out oh, the cold and the rain. You're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. You may write it on his tombstone, you may cut it on his card, that a young man married is a young man marred. They shut the road through the woods 70 years ago. A member of the most ancient profession in the world. This our fathers bought for us, long and long ago. There's a little red-faced man, which is Bob's. Rides the tallest horse he can, our Bob's. There lived a Parsee from whose hat the rays of the sun were reflected in more than oriental splendor. For Allah created the English mad, the maddest of all mankind. It's Tommy this, and Tommy that, and chuck him out, the brute, but it's savior of his country, when the guns begin to shoot. Stiff-necked Glasgow beggar. I've heard he's prayed for my soul, but he couldn't lie if you paid him, and he'd starve before he stole. Take up the white man's burden, and reap his old reward, the blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. It was not preached to the crowd, it was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud, when the English began to hate. Never praise a sister to a sister in the hope of your compliments reaching the proper ears. Never praise a sister to a sister in the hope of your compliments reaching he proper ears. They copied all they could follow, but they couldn't copy my mind, so I left them sweating and stealing 1.5 years behind. There's times when you'll think that you mightn't, there's times when you know that you might, but the things you will learn from the yellow and brown, they'll help you a lot with the white. I keep 6 honest serving men, they taught me all I knew, their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. I had 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names were, where, what, when, why, how and who. If you don't get what you want, it's a sign either that you did not seriously want it, or that you tried to bargain over the price. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Being kissed by a man who didn't wax his mustache was like eating an egg without salt. Call a truce, then to our labors, let us feast with friends and neighbors and be merry as the custom of our caste, for if faint enforce the laughter, and if sadness follow after, we are richer by one mocking Christmas past. But, through the shift of mood and mood, Mine ancient humor saves him hold the cynic devil in his blood that bids him mock his hurrying soul, that bids him flout the law he makes, that bids him make the law he flouts, till, dazed by many doubts, buy a pup and your money will buy love unflinching. He's an absent-minded beggar, and his weaknesses are great, but we and Paul must take him as we find him. He's out on active service, wiping something off a slate, and he's left a lot of little things behind him. Gentleman rankers out on the spree, damned from here to eternity. If he plays, being young and unskilful, for shekels of silver or gold, take his money, my son praising Allah, the kid was ordained to be sold. How very little, since things were made, things have altered in the building trade. For the Colonel's lady and Judy O'Grady are sisters under their skins. The cat. He walked by himself, and all places were alike to him. The great grey-green, greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees. All we have of freedom, all we use or know, this our fathers bought for us, long and long ago. All we have of freedom, all we use or know, this our fathers bought for us, long and long ago. The coastwise lights of England watch the ships of England go. All the people like us are we, and every one else is they. And, each in his separate star, shall draw the thing as he sees it for the God of things as they are. And I'd like to roll to Rio some day before I'm old. If any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. San Francisco has only one drawback, 'tis hard to leave. All things considered, there are only two kinds of men in the world, those that stay at home and those that do not. Both triumph and disaster are impostors. If you can meet success and failure and treat them both as impostors, then you are a balanced man, my son. The American has no language, he has a dialect, slang, provincialism, accent and so forth. All good people agree, and all good people say, all nice people, like us, are we and every one else is they, but if you cross over the sea, instead of over the way, you may end by, think of it, looking on we as only a sort of they. Good luck go with you, O chief of the wolves. And good luck and strong white teeth go with noble children that they may never forget the hungry in this world. If you can dream, and not make dreams your master. Now India is a place beyond all others where one must not take things too seriously, the midday sun always excepted. Oh, Adam was a gardener, and God who made him sees that half a proper gardener's work is done upon his knees, so when your work is finished, you can wash your hands and pray for the glory of the garden, that it may not pass away. No one thinks of winter when the grass is green. An unhappy childhood was not an unsuitable preparation for my future, in that it demanded a constant wariness, the habit of observation, and the attendance on moods and tempers, the noting of discrepancies between speech and action, a certain reserve of demeanor, an automatic suspicion of sudden favors. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. Too much work and too much energy kill a man just as effectively as too much assorted vice or too much drink. Oh, east is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet. When your demon is in charge, do not try to think consciously. Drift, wait, and obey. No printed word, nor spoken plea can teach young minds what they should be. Not all the books on all the shelves, but what the teachers are themselves. Those who only know England know not England. Oh, it's Tommy this, and Tommy that, and Tommy ows your soul, but its thin red line of heroes when the drums begin to roll. Sing, for faith and hope are high, none so true as you and I. Sing the lover's litany, love like ours can never die. The wild hawk to the wind-swept sky, the deer to the wholesome wold, and the heart of a man to the heart of a maid, as it was in the days of old. If you do not get what you want, it is a sure sign that you did not seriously want it. Keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Nations have passed away and left no traces, and history gives the naked cause of it, one single simple reason in all cases: they fell because their peoples were not fit. He who can reach a child's heart can reach the world's heart. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. The glory of the garden lies in more than meets the eye. A man can never have too much red wine, too many books, or too much ammunition. I am by nature a dealer in words, and words are the most powerful drug known to humanity. Now this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky, and the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. Take everything you like seriously, except yourselves. If you can walk with the crowd and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you. But none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Beware of over-concern for money, or position, or glory. Someday you will meet a man who cares for none of these things. Then you will know how poor you are. This is a brief life, but in its brevity it offers us some splendid moments, some meaningful adventures. If you can wait, and not be tired by waiting, if you can dream, and not make dreams your master, if you can think, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. And no one shall work for money, and no one shall work for fame, but each for the joy of the working, and each, in his separate star, shall draw the thing as he sees it for the God of things as they are. Our hearts where they rocked our cradle, our love where we spent our toil, and our faith, and our hope, and our honor, we pledge to our native soil. God gave all men all earth to love, but since our hearts are small, ordained for each one spot should prove beloved over all. Your new caught, sullen peoples, half devil and half child. The guns, thank God, the guns. Men, not children or servants, tempered and taught to the end, cleansed of servile panic, slow to dread or despise, humble because of knowledge, mighty by sacrifice. An angry skipper makes an unhappy crew. No one as yet has approached the management of New York in a proper spirit, that is to say, regarding it as the shiftless outcome of squalid barbarism and reckless extravagance. No one is likely to do so, because reflections on the long narrow pig trough are construed as malevolent attacks against the spirit and majesty of the American people, and lead to angry comparisons. Most amusements only mean trying to win another person's money. Adam was a gardener, and God, who made him, sees that half of all good gardening is done upon the knees. You sometimes see a woman who would have made a Joan of Arc in another century and climate, threshing herself to pieces over all the mean worry of housekeeping. If I were hanged on the highest hill, mother o' mine, O mother o' mine, I know whose love would follow me still, mother o' mine, O mother o' mine. If I were drowned in the deepest sea, mother o' mine, O mother o' mine, I know whose tears would come down to me, mother o' mine, O mother o' mine. If I were damned of body and soul, I know whose prayers would make me whole, mother o' mine, O mother o' mine. Fiction is truth's elder sister. Obviously. No one in the world knew what truth was till someone had told a story. And the talk slid north, and the talk slid south with the sliding puffs from the hookah mouth, for things greater than all things are women and horses and power and war. As I pass through my incarnations in every age and race, I make my proper prostrations to the gods of the marketplace. Peering through reverent fingers I watch them flourish and fall, and the gods of the copybook headings, I notice, outlast them all. There aren't 1,200 people in the world who understand pictures. The others pretend and don't care. He who faces no calamity gains no courage. It is like a book, I think, this bloomin' world. And that after this is accomplished, and the brave new world begins, when all men are paid for existing and no man must pay for his sins. Shere Khan, the big one, has shifted his hunting grounds. He will hunt among these hills for the next moon, so he has told me. The beasts are very wise, their mouths are clean of lies, they talk one to the other, bullock to bullock brothers resting after their labors. Each in stall with his neighbors, but man with goad and whip, breaks up their fellowship, shouts in their silky ears filling their soul with fears. When he has plowed the land, he says, they understand. But the beasts installed together, freed from the yoke and tether, say as the torn flanks smoke, nay, 'twas the whip that spoke. They shut the road through the woods 70 years ago. Weather and rain have undone it again, and now you would never know there was once a road through the woods. The white moth to the closing vine, the bee to the open clover, and the gypsy blood to the gypsy blood ever the wide world over. A time for prayer in times of war and not before, God and the soldier we adore. But in times of peace and all things righted, God is forgotten and the soldier slighted. Rudyard Kipling. The heart of a man to the heart of a maid, light of my tents, be fleet, morning awaits at the end of the world, and the world is all at our feet. One man in 1,000, Solomon says, will stick more close than a brother. And it's worthwhile seeking him half your days if you find him before the other. The 1,000th man. We be of one blood, ye and I. It takes a great deal of Christianity to wipe out uncivilized Eastern instincts, such as falling in love at first sight. Now, don't be angry after you've been afraid. That's the worst kind of cowardice. Youth had been a habit of hers for so long that she could not part with it. I will remember what I was, I am sick of rope and chains, I will remember my old strength and all my forest affairs. I will not sell my back to man for a bundle of sugar cane, I will go out to my own kind, and the wood folk in their lairs. I will go out until the day, until the morning break, out to the wind's untainted kiss, the water's clean caress, I will forget my ankle ring and snap my picket stake. I will revisit my lost love and playmates masterless. But he couldn't lie if you paid him, and he'd starve before he stole. We never pay anyone Danegeld, no matter how trifling the cost, for the end of that game is oppression and shame, and the nation that plays it is lost. For undemocratic reasons and for motives not of state, they arrive at their conclusions, largely inarticulate. Being void of self-expression, they confide their views to none, but sometimes in a smoking room, one learns why things were done. And some can pot begonias, and some can bud a rose, and some are hardly fit to trust with anything that grows. What stands if freedom fall? Es all sand and ginger when alive, and es generally shamin when es dead. It was the 40-fathom slumber that clears the soul and eye and heart, and sends you to breakfast ravening. It thrilled through him when he first felt the keel answer to his hand on the spokes and slide over the long hollows as the foresail scythed back and forth against the blue sky. Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed, go, bind your sons to exile to serve your captives' need. The motto of all the mongoose family is, run and find out, and Rikki Tikki was a true mongoose. The world is very lovely, and it's very horrible, and it doesn't care about your life or mine or anything else. As surely as water will wet us, as surely as fire will burn, the gods of the copybook headings with terror and slaughter return. They will come back again, as long as the red earth rolls. He never wasted a leaf or a tree. Do you think he would squander souls? These are the four that are never content, that have never been filled since the dew began, Jacala's mouth, and the glut of the kite, and the hands of the ape, and the eyes of man. Good Lord! Who can account for the fathomless folly of the public? How can you do anything until you have seen everything, or as much as you can? They are fools who kiss and tell, wisely has the poet sung. Man may hold all sorts of posts if he'll only hold his tongue. Buy a pup and your money will buy love unflinching that cannot lie. Yet there be certain times in a young man's life, when, through great sorrow or sin, all the boy in him is burnt and seared away, so that he passes at one step to the more sorrowful state of manhood. War is an ill thing, as I surely know. But 'twould be an ill world for weaponless dreamers if evil men were not now and then slain. When young lips have drunk deep of the bitter waters of hate, suspicion and despair, all the love in the world will not wholly take away that knowledge, though it may turn darkened eyes for a while to the light, and teach faith where no faith was. A black shadow dropped down into the circle. It was Bagheera the Black Panther, inky black all over, but with the panther markings showing up in certain lights like the pattern of watered silk. Everybody knew Bagheera, and nobody cared to cross his path, for he was as cunning as Tabaqui, as bold as the wild buffalo, and as reckless as the wounded elephant. But he had a voice as soft as wild honey dripping from a tree, and a skin softer than down. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. She is intensely human, and lives to look upon life. East is east, and west is west, and never the twain shall meet, till earth and sky stand presently at God's great judgment seat, but there is neither east nor west, border, nor breed, nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. God help us, for we knew the worst too young. Many wear the robes, but few walk the way. The Lama in Kim. If you hit a pony over the nose at the outset of your acquaintance, he may not love you, but he will take a deep interest in your movements ever afterwards. I have seen something of this world, she said over the trays, and there are but two sorts of women in it, those who take the strength out of a man, and those who put it back. Once I was that one, and now I am this. A thin gray fog hung over the city, and the streets were very cold, for summer was in England. 20 bridges from Tower to Kew wanted to know what the river knew, 20 bridges or 22, for they were young. And the Thames was old, and this is the tale that river told. I had never seen the jungle. They fed me behind bars from an iron pan till one night I felt that I was Bagheera, the panther, and no man's plaything. And I broke the silly lock with one blow of my paw and came away, and because I had learned the ways of men, I became more terrible in the jungle than Shere Khan. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. Ye may kill for yourselves, and your mates, and your cubs as they need, and ye can, but kill not for pleasure of killing, and 7 times never kill man. Also, we will make promise. So long as the blood endures, I shall know that your good is mine, ye shall feel that my strength is yours, in the day of Armageddon, at the last great fight of all, that our house stand together and the pillars do not fall. There is sorrow enough in the natural way from men and women to fill our day, but when we are certain of sorrow in store, why do we always arrange for more? Brothers, sisters, I bid you beware of giving your heart to a dog to tear. There are few things sweeter in this world than the guileless, hot-headed, intemperate, open admiration of a junior. Even a woman in her blindest devotion does not fall into the gait of the man she adores, tilt her bonnet to the angle at which he wears his hat, or interlard her speech with his pet oaths. The tumult and shouting dies, the captains and the kings depart. Still stands thine ancient sacrifice, and humble and a contrite heat. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. Of course the man was wild too. He was dreadfully wild. He didn't even begin to be tame till he met the woman, and she told him that she did not like living in his wild ways. She picked out a nice dry cave, instead of a heap of wet leaves, to lie down in, and she strewed clean sand on the floor. And she lit a nice fire of wood at the back of the cave, and she hung a dried wild horse skin, tail down, across the opening of the cave, and she said, "Wipe your feet, dear, when you come in, and now we'll keep house." Hear and attend and listen, for this befell and behappened and became and was, O my best beloved, when the tame animals were wild. I worked like a horse and I ate like a hog and I slept like a dead man. When man has come to the turnstiles of night, all the creeds in the world seem to him wonderfully alike and colorless. I have my own matches and sulphur, and I'll make my own hell. Let all who build beware the load, the shock, the pressure material can bear. So, when the buckled girder lets down the grinding span, the blame of loss, or murder, is laid upon the man. Not on the stuff, the man. If a man brings a good mind to what he reads, he may become, as it were, the spiritual descendant to some extent of great men, and this link, this spiritual hereditary tie, may help to just kick the beam in the right direction at a vital crisis, or may keep him from drifting through the long slack times when, so to speak, we are only fielding and no balls are coming our way. You may talk gin and beer when you're quartered safe out air, and you're sent to penny fights and Aldershot, but when it comes to slaughter you will do your work on water, and you'll lick the bloomin' boots of I'm that's got it. Literature is a splendid mistress, but a bad wife. Many religious people are deeply suspicious. They seem, for purely religious purposes, of course, to know more about iniquity than the unregenerate. You perceive, do you not, that our national fairy tales reflect the inmost desires of the Briton and the Gaul? Never praise a sister to a sister, in the hope of your compliments reaching the proper ears, and so preparing the way for you later on. Sisters are women first, and sisters afterwards, and you will find that you do yourself harm. For the female of the species is more deadly than the male. A woman's guess is much more accurate than a man's certainty. Take my word for it, the silliest woman can manage a clever man, but it takes a very clever woman to manage a fool. I never made a mistake in my life, at least, never one that I couldn't explain away afterwards. Any fool can waste, any fool can muddle, but it takes something of a man to save, and the more he saves the more of a man does it make of him. Follow the dream, and always the dream, and only the dream. Englishmen are not usually softened by appeals to the memory of their mothers. Who has smelled the wood smoke at twilight, who has seen the campfire burning, who is quick to read the noises of the night? None of the jungle people like being disturbed. Come you back, you British soldier, come you back to Mandalay. A tale from which pieces have been raked out is like a fire that has been poked. One does not know the operation has been performed, but everyone feels the effect. Well, if I am a man I must become. Let each man be judged by his deeds. I have paid my price to live with myself on the terms that I willed. The flannelled fools at the wicket or the moodied oafs at the goals. A boy of today is affected by every change of tone and gust of opinion, so that he lies even when he desires to speak the truth. After violent emotion most people and all boys demand food. Each dog barks in his own yard. All sensible men are of the same religion, but no sensible man ever tells. At 20 the things for which one does not care a damn should, properly, be many. We are the opening verse of the opening page of the chapter of endless possibilities. There's no jealousy in the grave. Our loves are not given, but only lent, at compound interest of cent per cent. There is no sin greater than ignorance. Though our smoke may hide the heavens from your eyes, it will vanish and the stars will shine again, because, for all our power and weight and size, we are nothing more than children of your brain. Like the destroyer, the submarine has created its own type of officer and man with language and traditions apart from the rest of the service, and yet at the heart unchangingly of the service. It's always best to tell the truth. There's a legion that never was listed, that carries no colors or crest, but, split in 1,000 detachments, is breaking the road for the rest. In the Carboniferous epoch we were promised abundance for all, by robbing selected Peter to pay for collective Paul, but, though we had plenty of money, there was nothing our money could buy, and the gods of the copybook heading said, "If you don't work you die." What is a woman that you forsake her, and the hearth fire and the homemaker, to go with the old grey widowmaker? We have learned to whittle the Eden tree to the shape of a surplus peg. We have learned to bottle our parents twain in the yelk of an addled egg. We know that the tail must wag the dog, for the horse is drawn by the cart, but the devil whoops, as he whooped of old. It's clever, but is it art? Go softly by that river side, or when you would depart, you'll find its every winding tide, and knotted round your heart. One cannot resist the lure of Africa. The jungle speaks to me because I know how to listen. Body and spirit I surrendered whole to harsh instructors and received a soul. If mortal man could change me through and through from all I was, what may the God not do? Once there was the people, terror gave it birth. One learns more from a good scholar in a rage than from a score of lucid and laborious drudges. The cat will keep his side of the bargain. He will kill mice, and he will be kind to babies when he is in the house, just so long as they do not pull his tail too hard. But when he has done that, and between times, and when the moon gets up and night comes, he is the cat that walks by himself, and all places are alike to him. Then he goes out to the wet wild woods or up on the wet wild trees or on the wet wild roofs, waving his wild tail and walking by his wild lone. Cities and thrones and powers stand in time's eye, almost as long as flowers, which daily die. Satan himself can't save a woman who wears 30-shilling corsets under a 30-guinea costume. Ship me somewhere east of Suez, where the best is like the worst, where there aren't no 10 commandments and a man can rise he thirst. When the Himalayan peasant meets the he-bear in his pride, he shouts to scare the monster, who will often turn aside. But the she-bear thus accosted, rends the peasant tooth and nail, for the female of the species is more deadly than the male. The masterless man, afflicted with the magic of the necessary words. Words that may become alive and walk up and down in the hearts of the hearers. Every woman knows all about everything. Ah! What avails the classic bent and what the cultured word, against the undoctored incident that actually occurred? And what is art whereto we press through paint and prose and rhyme when nature in her nakedness defeats us every time? Doctors have been exposed, you always will be exposed to the attacks of those persons who consider their own undisciplined emotions more important than the world's most bitter agonies, the people who would limit and cripple and hamper research because they fear research may be accompanied by a little pain and suffering. There are 960 ways of constructing tribal lays, and every single one of them is right. There rise her timeless capitals of empires daily born, whose plinths are laid at midnight and whose streets are packed at morn. And here come tired youths and maids that feign to love or sin in tones like rusty razor blades to tunes like smitten tin. But remember please, the law by which we live, we are not built to comprehend a lie, we can neither love nor pity nor forgive. If you make a slip in handling us you die. I have eaten your bread and salt. I have drunk your water and wine. The deaths ye died I have watched beside, and the lives ye led were mine. God gives all men all earth to love, but since man's heart is small, ordains for each one spot shall prove Belov, D over all. Gentlemen rankers out on the spree, damned from here to eternity. If the aunt of the vicar has never touched liquor, watch out when she finds the champagne. However the world pretends to divide itself, there are only two divisions in the world today: human beings and Germans. Our England is a garden, and such gardens are not made by singing "Oh how wonderful," and sitting in the shade, while better men than we go out and start their working lives by grubbing weeds from garden paths with broken dinner knives. I've a neater, sweeter maiden in a cleaner, greener land. For it's guns this and guns that, and chuck 'em out, the brutes, but they're the savior of our loved ones when the thugs begin to loot. More men are killed by overwork than the importance of the world justifies. Still stands thine ancient sacrifice, an humble and a contrite heart. I have stated it plain, and my argument's thus: it's all one, says the sapper, there's only one corps which is perfect, that's us, and they call us Her Majesty's Engineers, with the rank and pay of a sapper. Not getting what you want either means you don't want it enough, or you have been dealing too long with the price you have to pay. The deed in is blindness must end where E began. But the backbone of the army is the non-commissioned man. He became an officer and a gentleman, which is an enviable thing. Meddling with another man's folly is always thankless work. What is the moral? Who rides may read. He will kill mice and he will be kind to babies, but when the moon gets up and the night comes, he is the cat that walks by himself. But till we are built like angels, with hammer and chisel and pen, we will work for ourself and a woman, forever and ever, amen. And the end of the fight is tombstone white with the name of the late deceased, and the epitaph drear, a fool lies here who tried to hustle the East. The American does not drink at meals as a sensible man should. Indeed, he has no meals. He stuffs for 10 minutes thrice a day. When the Cambrian measures were forming, they promised perpetual peace. They swore, if we gave them our weapons, that the wars of the tribes would cease. But when we disarmed they sold us, and delivered us, bound, to our foe, and the gods of the copybook heading said, "Stick to the devil you know." The toad beneath the harrow knows exactly where each tooth point goes. Call a truce, then, to our labors, let us feast with friends and neighbors, and be merry as the custom of our caste, for if faint enforce the laughter, and if sadness follow after, we are richer by one mocking Christmas past. 'Tis beauty, so to speak, nor good talk necessarily. It's just it. Some women will stay in a man's memory if they once walked down a street. When Earth's last picture is painted and the tubes are twisted and dried, when the oldest colors have faded, and the youngest critic has died, we shall rest, and, faith, we shall need it lie down for an aeon or two, till the Master of all good workmen shall put us to work anew. As the dawn comes up like thunder. What stands if freedom fail? What dies of England live? Till the Master of all good workmen shall set us to work anew. On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder outer China, crossed the bay. Hear and attend and listen, for this is what befell and happened and became and was, O my best beloved, when the tame animals were wild. The dog was wild, and the horse was wild, and the cow was wild, and the sheep was wild, and the pig was wild as wild could be, and they walked in the wet wild woods by their wild lones. But the wildest of all the wild animals was the cat. He walked by himself and all places were alike to him. All the money in the world is no use to a man or his country if he spends it as fast as he makes it. All he has left is his bills and the reputation for being a fool. If you want something and don't get it, there are only two reasons. You either really didn't want it, or you tried to bargain over the price. One can't prescribe books, even the best books, to people unless one knows a good deal about each individual person. If a man is keen on reading, I think he ought to open his mind to some older man who knows him and his life, and to take his advice in the matter, and above all, to discuss with him the first books that interest him. For all we take we must pay, but the price is cruel high. I've just read that I am dead. Don't forget to delete me from your list of subscribers. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. As I pass through my incarnations in every age and race, and the hearts of the meanest were humbled. And what should they know of England who only England know? Let it be clearly understood that the Russian is a delightful person till he tucks in his shirt. As an Oriental he is charming. It is only when he insists on being treated as the most easterly of Western peoples instead of the most westerly of Easterns that he becomes a racial anomaly extremely difficult to handle. No doubt, but ye are the people, absolute, strong and wise, whatever your ear has desired ye have not withheld from your eyes. On your own heads, in your own hands, the sin and the saving lies. The Navy is very old and very wise. Never was isle so little, never was sea so lone, but over the scud and the palm trees an English flag was flown. Favoritism governed kissage, even as it does in this age. There are gems of wondrous brightness ofttimes lying at our feet, and we pass them, walking thoughtless, down the busy, crowded street. If we knew, our pace would slacken, we would step more oft with care, lest our careless feet be treading to the earth some jewel rare. Yes, making mock uniforms that guard you while you sleep. For it's Tommy this, and Tommy that, and chuck him out, the brute. But it's savior of his country, when the guns begins to shoot. Smells are surer than sounds and sights to make the heartstrings crack. Politicians. Little tin gods on wheels. Not only do words infect, egotize, narcotize, and paralyze, but they enter into and color the minutest cells of the brain. In the jungle, life and food depend on keeping your temper. What is the law of the jungle? Strike first and then give tongue. There is no harm in a man's cub. I have no gift of words, but I speak the truth. Brothers and sisters, I bid you beware of giving your heart to a dog to tear. The 3 in 1, the 1 in 3. Not so. To my own gods I go. It may be they shall give me greater ease than your cold Christ and tangled trinities. If you give someone more than they can do, they will do it. If you give them only what they can do, they will do nothing. I keep 6 honest serving men. I've taken my fun where I've found it. Yes, making mock uniforms that guard you while you sleep. They copied all they could copy, but they couldn't copy my mind, and I left them sweatin' and stealin', a year and a half behind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. It is always a temptation to a rich and lazy nation, to puff and look important and to say, though we know we should defeat you, we have not the time to meet you. We will therefore pay you cash to go away. I wasted my substance, I know I did, on riotous living, so I did, but there's nothing on record to show I did more than my betters have done. Something I owe to the soil that grew, more to the life that fed, but most to Allah who gave me 2 separate sides of my head. I would go without shirt or shoes, friends, tobacco, or bread sooner than for an instant lose either side of my head. Be slow to judge, for we know little of what has been done and nothing of what has been resisted. There was a young man of Quebec who was frozen in snow to his neck. When asked, "Are you frizz?" he replied, "Yes I is, but we don't call this cold in Quebec." Bite on the bullet, old man, and don't let them think you're afraid. We're poor little lambs who've lost our way, baa, baa, baa. We're little black sheep who've gone astray, baa. Gentlemen rankers out on the spree, damned from here to eternity, God hop mercy on such as we, baa. Ya, ba. At 2 o'clock in the morning, if you open your window and listen, you will hear the feet of the wind that is going to call the sun. And the trees in the shadow rustle and the trees in the moonlight glisten, and though it is deep, dark night, you feel that the night is done. We have done with hope and honor. We are lost to love and truth, we are dropping down the ladder rung by rung, and the measure of our torment is the measure of our youth. God help us, for we knew the worst too young. Single men in barracks don't grow into plaster saints. When a crew and a captain understand each other to the core, it takes a gale, and more than a gale, to put their ship ashore. I keep 6 honest serving men, they taught me all I knew, their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. Funny how the new things are the old things. No one accuses the gunner of maudlin affection for anything except his beasts and his weapons. He serves as least 3 jealous gods his horse and all its saddlery and harness, his gun, whose least detail of efficiency is more important than men's lives, and, when these have been attended to, the never-ending mystery of his art commands him. And when your back stops aching and your hands begin to harden, you will find yourself a partner in the glory of the garden. I never made a mistake in my life, at least, never one that I couldn't explain away afterwards. He travels the fastest who travels alone. We had a kettle, we let it leak, our not repairing made it worse. We haven't had any tea for a week. The bottom is out of the universe. Enough work to do, and strength enough to do the work. Savings represent much more than mere money value. They are the proof that the saver is worth something in himself. Any fool can waste, any fool can muddle, but it takes something more of a man to save, and the more he saves the more of a man he makes of himself. Waste and extravagance unsettle a man's mind for every crisis. Thrift, which means some form of self-restraint, steadies it. You must learn to forgive a man when he's in love. He's always a nuisance. A brave heart and a courteous tongue, they shall carry thee far through the jungle, manling. It's clever, but is it art? Humble because of knowledge, mighty by sacrifice. 1/2 of my head, from the top of my skull to the cleft of my jaw, hammers, bangs, sizzles, while the other half, serene and content, looks on at the agony next door. This is Burma, and it is unlike any land you know about. The python dropped his head lightly for a moment on Mowgli's shoulders. A brave heart and a courteous tongue, said he. They shall carry thee far through the jungle, manling. But now go hence quickly with thy friends. Go and sleep, for the moon sets, and what follows it is not well that thou shouldst see. I am the cat who walks by himself, and all places are alike to me. All gods have good points, just as have all priests. Personally, I attach much importance to Hanuman, and am kind to his people, the great grey apes of the hills. One never knows when one may want a friend. Of all the trees that grow so fair old England to adorn, greater are none beneath the sun than oak, and ash, and thorn. We're all islands shouting lies to each other across seas of misunderstanding. When the man waked up he said, "What is Wild Dog doing here?" And the woman said, "His name is not Wild Dog any more, but the first friend, because he will be our friend for always and always and always." All we have of freedom, all we use or know, this our fathers bought for us long and long ago. Payday came, and with it beer. Daughter am I in my mother's house, but mistress in my own. Politics are not my concern. They impressed me as a dog's life without a dog's decencies. For things greater than all things are women and horses and power and war. He will be our friend for always and always and always. Teach us delight in simple things, and mirth that has no bitter springs. I've taken my fun where I've found it, and now I must pay for my fun, for the more you have known the others, the less will you settle to one. Delight in the little things. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. There is no sin so great as ignorance. Remember this. If England was what England seems, and not the England of our dreams, but only putty, brass, and paint, we'd chuck her, but she ain't. Being kissed by a man who didn't wax his mustache was like eating an egg without salt. Cat said, "I am not a friend, and I am not a servant. I am the cat who walks by himself, and I wish to come into your cave."